Hello everyone, JSpeaks here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm currently here at the Contemporary Art Museum of Raleigh at a distinct event called Melanin Motion. This event celebrates wellness, self-care, and the power of mindful living. Today, ladies and gentlemen, this event is brought to you by A Taste of Black, an organization whose mission is to give folks a taste of Black culture, represent Black chefs, and celebrate Black people. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with
Seyá McAllister,
the owner of LovelyColorBrown Yoga. How are you, Seyá?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing very well as well. So please talk to me, share with the camera,
Yeah.
talk about yourself.
So, LovelyColorBrown Yoga. Actually, I've been teaching yoga in the area now for this year makes 10 years.
Wow.
To teach wellness and peace and restoration. Yeah, and I wanted to bring a different element to a lot of yoga studios. So I trained in a hot yoga studio, right? And it was predominantly white, and I wanted to open a space. So that's how I kind of created my version of trap yoga. So with trap yoga, a lot of times I think we think trap music and dancing, which we do have a good time, but trap yoga is really about trap and be where you are, trap and be present, trap and be in your mind. Because a lot of times in life we might feel like we're in this trap. And so finding our peace in the chaos of no matter where we are is what I brought to my mat. So it's pretty much what I was doing in my living room to help myself restore as a scientist and the woes of, just having all the layers, right? Being a Black woman and a scientist in this area. And it just formed into this beautiful thing.
Wow, so talk a little bit about how your version of yoga, trap yoga, is different from contemporary yoga.
Yeah. So when we Google trap yoga, we like to twerk and have fun, right? And it's a beautiful place to be. And twerking also does release energy, through your hips, through your sacral chakra. But what I've noticed as far as working with cells in itself, like individual stem cells, right, is that there's a constriction in the body due to stress. And that relies from head to toe. And so in order to start to treat that and bring the element of fun is to understand that we might have this pressure of, feeling like we're in a trap. And that's going to heighten your fight or flight, which is how you work against your nervous system. So trap yoga is trap and be. Because if we're just being in our presence and our mindfulness journey, right, then we're in our own authority and our own authenticity. Through that, we can find our breath and movement and freedom. And then we can start to relate and work with the nervous system instead of against the nervous system to find peace in that mindfulness journey.
Wow. So who or what motivated you to start this journey, to start this path?
The motivation came from inside, to be honest. I've always studied the human body, and I love the human body, and I wanted to start to think about how to support our community in a way that was different than working at, GSK or Pfizer and making synthetic drugs and compounds. After physically putting drugs on the market through the FDA and working with the FDA to see how it was done, it was a place of me understanding that we're continually left out of the conversation. And I think we saw that very much prevalent with the numbers of, the clinical trials for the vaccine, for the COVID vaccine, right? So it's how can we start to support, how can I start to support my community in a way that didn't take millions and billions of dollars to have a big biotech to infiltrate the homes and the minds of people.
Wow, so you've been you've been a full-time entrepreneur for 10 years?
No, so this first year, so I was doing both pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah. Excuse me, I was doing both. So I was working full-time in the lab at Duke and then running from the lab to go teach yoga in the afternoon. And I started that journey pretty much at Southeast Valley Y, kind of doing COVID.
Southeast Valley Y.
Yeah.
So do you believe that what you bring to the table is missing from the market of yoga, or you just bring a different twist?
I would say that everybody has their own flavor. I think as a clinician, as a physiologist, I am really big on alignment. And I think that we do have spaces where we should divide when you're in yoga poses versus things that are pushing you more towards contortionism, right? And understanding our anatomy a little bit better. And so I really want to be here to support, right? Support the education through anatomy and physiology and how that does intertwine with yoga.
So do you teach your students during your classes?
Yeah, so I give tons of anatomy. So I'll talk about like your cervical spine, your thoracic spine, your lumbar. I talk about your sacrum. I talk about where your nerves feed through to your legs. I give a lot of different anatomy cues for you to start to understand what's happening in the body in poses.
Wow, and your company, do you offer classes to just women or is it women and men?
So my class range is everybody. And it shocked me, honestly. I thought it would be just women from trap yoga. But what I noticed was, like, men needed it just as much. So I range from mothers and daughters doing it with themselves to, you know, full families coming in, like, especially like a mom. She has 5 boys. They're all athletes, so she pulls them into yoga. So it became a space to be free for everybody. So it's men, women, white, black, Hispanic. It's a mix.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And did you drop, you said you're in Raleigh?
Yeah,
Okay. Do you mind dropping your address if you want people to come? Like dropping your Raleigh address?
So most of the time you can find me at the Southeast Raleigh YMCA.
Okay.
And then I do personal pop-ups as this event, right, to support the community. And I actually don't have a home studio, so I've been traveling around the world. So I have a retreat coming up, going to Nepal in October for wellness. And so I want to expand the mind also to understand that we can travel and find pleasure and journey wherever we go.
Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome. First time in Nepal?
No, it'll be my second.
Second?
Yeah.
Through what you do?
Yeah, so I went back in 2022 and actually went for a retreat, and then I ended up teaching because their base is a little bit more rigid, right? It's been in their lineage for a very long time. So a lot of people practice Ashtanga yoga, which is very focused and very rigid. So when I go to talk about freedom and play and openness on the mat, it was also a space to open up for them to understand that they can laugh and be themselves too. So it's been enlightening.
Wow. So you touched upon it in the beginning a little bit, but I just wanted you to delve a little bit deeper into what you believe is your overall impact in the community. Or how have you seen people change and adapt to what you bring to the table?
Honestly, it's to challenge the norms of what we have in westernized yoga. That you don't have to look a certain shape, that you don't have to be a certain size, and that you also can find what you need in your body as far as when you're in postures, right? So a lot of yoga cues are built on alignment, of aligning your feet a certain way, or aligning your arms a certain way, because they want to build a shape. Whereas, you know, I'll tell my clients to tap into their bodies, feel what you need in your hips, and then go into the posture. So it gives them that space to be free to find the constrictions where, you know, even trauma might reside, right? Because everybody's anatomically built differently. So it's taking some of the history that we've had and seeing the benefits of doing yoga and now bringing it to this modernization of, okay, in our society we sit in chairs a lot, right? It's going to be harder for people to get up and down off the floor. How can I start to assist them and give them cues to be able to do that in a way that helps them, right? So I'll say take your time, take as much time as you want to. This is your world, right? And so bringing that emphasis on the mat allows that freedom to kind of flow through.
Speaking of time, how long does a typical class last?
A class normally lasts about 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just enough time to build sweat. We burn calories in our class. We do sweat. So like our base is at least 200 to 300 calories because I'm working to turn on every muscle in your body. I study physics, right? So I also study how gravity kind of plays with the body and in different postures. So I use a little bit more science technique behind it than I think may come, you know, as I'm teaching the mat, on the mat.
Wow.
Yeah.
So please take this opportunity to talk a little bit about some of your wins. Boast a little bit about some of your wins. I mean, I guess one of them could be you going to Nepal for the second time.
Yeah, so going to Nepal for the second time is amazing. Being able to transition after, working as a pharmaceutical project manager into yoga and allowing that to carry me and kind of being pushed in that place to start to open up, myself and my business and my brand, I think has been a big win this year to make it now a full year and be flourishing, and now also making different things that you can ingest, right, to support as well. So now I have the Midnight Elixir, right, or the Calm, and it's the Calm Elixir. So Midnight Kiss is a calm elixir, and by ingesting that with magnesium, it's going to support your hydration. It's going to support the stress reduction that we talk about in yoga, right? And then also adding different elements, even in science, of heightening the terpentine so it smells a certain type of way. So now the brain can cue that it's our time to rest, even once you smell it, even before you ingest it. So it's now working on the outside of the body through yoga, but also on the inside of the body with different products that I'm creating to support yourself on that journey throughout your week.
Wow, so it sounds like you can take it right before bed.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily have to take it after a session.
Right, yeah, so you can take it anytime that you want to de-stress, right, and find that peace of calm. You can take it whenever you would like to, but before bed is really great because certain things only happen in your body when you sleep. Like your brain can only remove certain toxins as you sleep, right? So I'm promoting more rest and restoration because that is how you're going to be able to carry yourself through the day to support yourself on your yoga mat or off it.
Well, you could have made any type of product,
right,
but you chose that product in particular.
Yeah.
Why that?
Because I want us to start to find something that's healthy to help us restore. I think I just noticed, just even in the market of sedatives or melatonin or sleep aid, any sleep aids, right? I'm a physiologist, so I believe in working with this cellular pathway that's already endogenous in your body, that's already there to help you sleep. And so yes, your brain does produce melatonin to help you sleep, but with magnesium, it's also going to pair with other essential things that you need in your body to be able to relax. And so that was where I really felt like, you watch this boom of people using magnesium sprays on their feet, right? Or even ingesting magnesium tablets, but then not even understanding that there's different derivatives of magnesium. Magnesium glycinate is the more help you relax. Magnesium citrate is the more help your digestive system. So that these different types of, things that you're taking have different effects too.
Wow, and you also hinted on you thinking of making other products in the future?
Yeah.
Care to share a little bit about that?
Actually, a lot of that spurred today. So like a lot of people were like, well, do you have one for us to stay awake? And I've actually, from herbal support, I have been looking at different herbs that work like caffeine in the body, right? But don't give you the extra jittery that your body can naturally use to help you remain awake too. So that was one of the next things, the next products. I was like, I have some in my kitchen, but I just hadn't produced it yet until I really want the community to push and drive where to go. I think that a grassroots way of finding herbal support is a beautiful way to do so. And I'm born and raised in Raleigh. I was raised by farmers. My grandmother was farmers. And so you really realize a lot of this land is rich and a lot of herbal support is here. That's in your backyard and we're disconnected to from that.
Wow. So we talked about a little bit about your wins, but there's no wins without challenges.
Right.
So talk about some of the challenges that you either overcame or challenges that you're currently facing right now.
Yeah, I think in the word of yoga, right, and I'll speak primarily in the Black community, is something that as we see more yoga grow and more of the practice of mindfulness, it's still like that they shy away from. Like, I don't do yoga, I've never tried it, or that apprehension. And so the hard part about it is normally, especially if you're dealing with a lot of trauma like how I was, when I first went to the yoga studio, I went to 1 or 2 classes and then I just stopped because it had tapped on so many parts of my body of healing through trauma that I didn't feel good. I was crying for the rest of the week. I was releasing, right? All of that energy that I had picked up. And it took a while for me to actually start to understand what was going on with my body. And maybe by me being a clinician, I was a little bit more heightened on like, why am I so upset after this yoga class? Why did this yoga teacher piss me off? You know what I mean? And it was about me understanding and brought a certain level of restoration and peace that I wasn't used to. So I think, especially in our community where we're striving just for survival, when we get to the place where we are thriving, that's another plateau that kind of adjusts. And that's hard to teach. And that's something that each person has experienced at their own time.
Wow. So you being tentative of yoga, how is it being on the other side to try to encourage somebody to forego those same similar fears that, like, how do you go about that?
Yeah, I invite them often, right? I show myself in vulnerable states. even if I'm in poses in class, I might moan or ow or, you know what I mean? I also bodybuild on the other side, or I power lift sometimes. So like I myself on the mat to say, this is truly what I was doing in the living room, and I'm just here to facilitate a space, right? So as I'm opening up to say that I'm just opening the doors for you all to do it with me, we are flowing together. I roll out my mat with you, I do the yoga postures with you, I go through my affirmations that I would go through myself on the mic with everyone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I really want it to be an inclusive space to say that as community, we're stronger together. And the more that we can really start to band together to find that community to support one another, we can get through anything.
Wow, wow. So we're at the end of the interview, but before we officially end, please, you're in charge now, so you can pick your next question.
I'm gonna shuffle them really. Let's see what I get. This one. How do you hope your work impacts the next generation? This is a really good question, and it's so. What I teach and what I say a lot is the beauty that I see in our generation that not even that we take for granted, but that might have been taught, is that we have the ability to rest. That I couldn't really watch my mother rest a lot. I couldn't watch my father rest and my grandmother. They worked very hard for the things we have today. In our lives now, we're talking about work-life balance. We're talking about the decompression during space. We can even talk about even trap yoga, right? Like knowing what it feels like to be in that trap. That through our epigenetics, right? Like our genetic pattern, the more that we integrate rest, the more we change our DNA. Your DNA is always ever changing and evolving. And so that creating that genetic pattern, lineages down, can reach back and understand the strife that we've been through and experiences, but also start to integrate that rest that we can create today.
Wow. Yeah. Yes, you're so right. Our DNA is just like data storage.
Right.
And how we handle that storage affects the next generation.
Yeah.
So if we don't handle our stresses, our anxieties, our traumas well, you are literally birthing that into the next generation. Now they have to deal with what we couldn't address sooner. So right. Before we officially end the interview, do you have any lasting questions? Any lasting comments that you would like to share?
I appreciate the Taste of Black space. I appreciate them for having this and hosting this and bringing the element of food to wellness and really merging that, especially for our community. Comfort food feels good for a reason, and because 50% of our hormones are made in our gut, right? So the more that we understand the better things that we ingest, we'll support ourselves in this wellness journey more than we'll ever know. So attacking DNA, right? Attacking gut health and mental health, as you said, will start to build that database for our future lineages to pull on and really just be stronger.
Absolutely. Amen. I totally agree with you. Well, Seyá, it was a pleasure.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure meeting you. I hope the best for your company and the best for the impact that you're bound to make in Raleigh. I hope you grow. If it is your dream to have your own studio one day, I hope that happens. And keep doing what you're doing with your chest high and just smile through it all. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.